We are counting down the 10 most deceptively pristine airplanes hiding catastrophic rot beneath their glossy exteriors. From aircraft plagued by exotic metal chemistry to machines with fatal design shortcuts, each entry earned its spot through the sheer scale of hidden decay, impossible repair bills, or flaws the factory never publicized. These are not just beautiful planes. They are ticking time bombs, with some failures lurking where no inspection sticker reaches. Which trophy shines brightest while crumbling fastest inside? Let us begin with number 10. The Beechcraft Bonanza. Five Tails sits on the ramp like a trophy, sleek lines, polished spinner, every inch promising speed and class. But the real story is hiding in the tail. Underneath that flawless paint, the ruddervators are skinned with magnesium. Beechcraft picked magnesium back in the day because it is lighter than aluminum, the only way to keep those big control surfaces balanced and flutter-free. Problem is, magnesium is a chemical time bomb. Chip the paint and oxygen goes to work. The metal pits, flakes, and turns into a white powder, magnesium oxide. That is not just ugly, it is a death sentence for the part. The corrosion creeps under the skin, and suddenly you are flying with a tail surface that is as brittle as a cracker. For years, if you found corrosion, you were done. There were no replacement skins. Owners watched their planes get parted out for scrap. The American Bonanza Society even put up a $500,000 prize to get new PMA-approved magnesium skins built. Now, SRS Aviation finally makes them, but you are still looking at around $9,000 per set, and that is if you can get in line. Miss a balance check, slap on some paint, or ignore that white dust, and you are gambling with a control surface that could flutter itself apart. Before you even think about buying, get the tail off and check for powder. If you see white, walk away. The paint is just a mask. What matters is the metal underneath. Cessna's 210 Centurion looks like a workhorse, big, shiny, ready to haul your family and gear across the country. But the real backbone of the airplane, the wing spar carry-through, hides a factory mistake that could kill the deal before you ever start the engine. In the name of cabin comfort, Cessna glued foam padding right up against the main spar. That foam acts like a sponge, soaking up every drop of condensation that forms inside the roof. For decades, moisture sits pressed against bare, high-strength aluminum. The result is not just surface rust. This is intergranular corrosion, the kind that eats along the grain boundaries and turns solid metal into flaky layers. Exfoliation. It looks like a croissant pulled apart. In 2019, a Cessna 210 in Australia lost its wing mid-flight after a pit just 1.8 millimeters deep triggered a fatal fracture. The FAA responded with an airworthiness directive in 2023. Every affected 210 must have the headliner ripped out and the spar scanned with eddy current equipment. Find pits deeper than 0.5 millimeter and you are grounded. If the spar fails, replacement can run upwards of $100,000 more than the plane is worth. That is a financial death sentence. A polished 210 with clean logs means nothing if the spar is rotting under soaked foam. Before you buy, demand that inspection. If the owner refuses, walk away. No exceptions. The Cessna 177. Cardinal looks like the perfect upgrade, sleek strutless wings and a panoramic view, but that clean exterior hides a silent threat. The 177's cantilever wing depends entirely on a single carry-through spar buried inside the cabin roof. There is no backup. If the spar is compromised, the wing is gone. Unlike the 210, you will not find foam glued to the spar and you will not find easy access. The Cardinal's interior makes it nearly impossible to see the critical metal without major teardown. Visual checks will not cut it. That is where ultrasonic thickness testing comes in. A skilled mechanic calibrates the probe, then maps the spar wall thickness, millimeter by millimeter. If the reading drops below 90% of original specification, the metal has already started to thin, one step closer to disaster. This is not a job for a flashlight and a mirror. If you are shopping for a Cardinal, demand a full ultrasonic report. No report, no deal. The only thing between you and a failed spar is a number on a screen. A Mooney M20 can fool you from 20 feet away. The skin is polished, the paint is deep, and the doors shut with a solid thunk. But what matters is hidden, a steel tube skeleton wrapped in aluminum. That cage is supposed to protect you in a crash, but if water gets in, it is the start of a slow, silent death. Leaky windows are the usual suspects. Rain seeps past old seals, drips down the window posts, and wicks straight into the steel tubes. The insulation, meant to keep you warm, soaks it up and holds it tight against the metal. Over years, rust forms at the lowest points, heel joints, door frames, and the base of the windshield. You will not see a thing from the outside. By the time you spot a brown stain or a bubble in the paint, it is already too late. The real story is inside the tubes, where corrosion eats from the bottom up. Magnetic particle inspection, MPI, is the only way to know for sure. It finds cracks and rust below the surface, even when the paint looks untouched. But MPE has its limits. If the rust is deep, or if the tube wall is already thin, you are looking at major surgery, removing the skin, cutting out rotten steel, and welding in new. That is a 5-figure bill on a plane that might not be worth much more. Before you buy a Mooney, demand MPI records and check every window seal. That mirror finish is just wallpaper over a rusting cage. The only thing standing between you and a total loss is what is happening inside those tubes. A Piper Aztec or Apache looks like a survivor. Big tail, broad stance, paint shining under the hangar lights. But in these old twins, the real question is, what is happening inside the tail section? The structure back there is a maze of steel tubes. If water finds a way in, corrosion works quietly from the inside out. You do not need fancy equipment to know if you are in trouble. All you need is an ice pick. Mechanics have used this test for decades. Jab the pick into the lower tail tubes, right at the drain holes or wherever water might have pooled. If the pick glances off, you are fine. If it punches through, that tube has lost more than half its wall thickness. At that point, the plane is not airworthy, and you are staring at a total loss. There are no shelves full of replacement tail sections for these birds. Rebuilding the tail means tracking down rare parts, cutting out rotten steel, and welding in new components, if you can even find a shop willing to touch it. Most buyers just walk away. The ice pick test is brutal, but it is honest. If the pick goes through, close the logbook and run. No amount of shiny paint can save a tail that is rotting from the inside. A Piper Cherokee or Arrow sits on the ramp, paint gleaming, wing roots tight, and the logbooks look clean. But the real trouble is hiding where you can't see, a few inches of metal around the main wing spar bolt holes. These holes are the only things keeping the wing on the airplane. Over decades, every hard landing and every bump in the air works those holes just a little. The metal stretches microscopically and moisture finds its way in, creating the perfect breeding ground for stress corrosion, cracking deep inside a hole you cannot inspect with a flashlight. Most cracks start so small that even a careful visual check misses them. The FAA's data shows that a standard visual inspection fails to catch the majority of early cracks. By the time you see one, it is already too late. The only way to know if you are safe is to pull the bolts and use high-frequency eddy current testing, or, better yet, radiography. A good X-ray does not just show cracks. It reveals crescent-shaped voids where corrosion has eaten away the metal from the inside out. It takes a certified tech and a patient owner, but it is the only way to catch a killer before it goes to work. Piper's own investigation found that cold bending during factory assembly left residual stresses right at the bolt holes, making them even more vulnerable. If those holes breathe, the wing will too. Do not buy a Cherokee or Arrow unless you see the inspection report with X-ray or eddy current images in hand. If the seller balks, walk. The spar is the airplane. Everything else is just along for the ride. A Grumman. AA5 Traveler or Tiger looks like a modern marvel, sleek and fast, not a rivet in sight. The secret is the glue. Grumman built these wings by bonding aluminum skins directly to the structure, ditching rows of rivets for a smooth finish that slices through the air. But every shortcut in aviation has a price. Moisture is the enemy here. Once water finds its way into the bond line, maybe through a scratch in the paint or a missed drain, it starts to swell the interface between the skin and the spar. The adhesive loses shear strength, and the bond begins to let go. You will not see rust. You will not see bubbling paint. The wing looks perfect until it is no longer. Delamination creeps in quietly. It spreads under the skin, separating the aluminum from the structure, turning a load-bearing wing into a hollow shell. There is no patch for this. You cannot simply re-glue a wing and trust it to fly. Once the bond line fails, the only fix is to replace the entire wing or walk away from the airplane. That is why the tap test is gospel with these birds. A trained mechanic runs a coin or a small hammer along the skin, listening for the dead thud of delamination. Infrared thermography can map hidden cavities, showing exactly where the adhesive has let go. But most owners never check until the wing starts to flex or creak in flight, and by then, it is too late. If you are buying a Grumman, demand a tap test and an infrared scan. If the seller hesitates, keep your wallet closed. When the glue quits, the wing quits being a wing. There is no second chance. The only thing holding that airplane together is a line of adhesive that does not care how shiny the paint is. An Ercoupe shines like a time capsule, smooth lines, bright paint, a cockpit that feels like a step back to simpler days. But under that charm, there is a trap waiting for anyone who trusts appearances. The real trouble is under your feet. The Ercoupe center section was designed with a low floor and a flat spar running directly beneath the cabin. The engineers never imagined water would pool there. Decades of leaky windows, careless washing, and humid storage turned that space into a bathtub. Pull up the carpet and you will find the padding damp, sometimes even soggy. The water has nowhere to go. It just sits on the spar, hidden by insulation and floor panels. Over time, every cycle of moisture and drying eats at the aluminum, starting as a thin oxide film and building into deep, unseen corrosion. The top of the spar, the part you cannot see without pulling floors, becomes pitted and rough, sometimes flaking apart in layers. It is not unusual to find an Ercoupe that looks perfect from above, but has a spar so thin beneath the floor that it is one hard landing from folding in half. Mechanics who know these planes carry a moisture meter and a screwdriver. If the reading is high, or if the insulation is stained, they will pull the floorboards and probe the spar with a pick. A soft spot means the plane is finished. There is no easy fix. Replacing the center section is a major job, often more expensive than the airplane is worth. Before you even think about making an offer, demand that the floors come up and the spar gets checked. It is a 5-minute job that can save you 50 grand. In an Ercoupe, the real corrosion is hiding right under your shoes. Ignore it, and you are just buying a bathtub with wings. A twin Cessna 300 or 400 series, sitting polished on the ramp, looks like the ultimate cross-country machine with 2 engines, big wings, and a reputation for speed. But under the nacelle, where the wing meets the engine, there is a chemical war going on that most owners never see. The exhaust beam, a massive chunk of aluminum that holds the wing together, is under constant attack from 2 enemies, heat and acid. Every flight, the turbocharged engines pour out exhaust at hundreds of degrees, blasting the inside of the nacelle. That heat bakes the protective primer right off the beam, leaving bare aluminum exposed. Then the exhaust gases, full of acidic residue and chloride, settle onto the raw metal. Add moisture from a humid ramp or a leaky seal, and you have the perfect storm for corrosion. The chemistry is brutal. Acidic exhaust breaks down the last layer of primer, and the aluminum starts to pit. Over time, the corrosion goes deep, eating away at the beam from the inside out. There is no easy way to spot it from the outside. No bubbling paint, no obvious stains. The only way to know is to pull the nacelle panels and run a chemical swab test. If the swab comes back with a high chloride reading, you are already in trouble. Some shops use pH paper to check for acid residue on the beam. A beam that fails the test is not just a maintenance item, it is a financial disaster. Replacing it can run over $60,000, and that is if you can find the part. A shiny twin Cessna with a clean interior means nothing if the exhaust beam is quietly dissolving. Before you even think about writing a check, demand photos of the nacelle interior and proof of recent swab tests. If the seller hesitates, walk away. Your exhaust is quietly eating the wing that holds both engines. The metal does not care how good the paint looks, it only cares about chemistry. A lake amphibian looks like pure freedom, wings, hull, and a mirror-bright paint job promising adventure on any lake or river. But the real threat is not in the shine or the shape. It is in the seams deep inside the hull where salt crystals hide out of sight and out of mind. One ocean landing, even decades ago, is all it takes. Miss the washdown and the salt stays forever. Chloride crystals wedge themselves into every joint, every rivet line, every lap seam. They are hygroscopic. They suck water out of the air even on a dry day. That means every humid morning, every rainstorm, every dew-soaked night, those crystals wake up and start the chemical fire all over again. Salt does not just attack one metal, it turns the entire airframe into a battery. Aluminum, magnesium, steel, throw them together with a little moisture and a pinch of salt, and the corrosion races through every joint 5 times faster than in fresh water. You might spot a little bubbling paint or a white streak here and there, but by the time you see it, the damage is already deep inside. The seams swell, the rivets loosen, and the metal flakes away under the skin. There is no easy fix. No quick flush or magic spray will undo years of neglect. Once the salt is in the seams, you cannot get it out. You can try a borescope, swab the joints, even cut open a sample, but the only real cure is to avoid the poison in the first place. The only question that matters is simple. Has this plane ever touched salt water? If the answer is not a hard no, demand chloride swab tests and demand proof of a full freshwater washdown after every landing. If the seller hesitates, you walk. Salt is a slow arsonist. It burns through the airframe, one hidden seam at a time, and you will not stop the burn. Paint cannot hide it. Time will not heal it. If you buy a lake or any seaplane without proof it is clean, you are not buying freedom. You are buying a corrosion case that never closes. Across all 10 entries, one pattern is clear. Corrosion always hides beneath the shine. No matter how flawless a plane looks, chemistry and time dismantle its core from within. The real threat is not what you see, it is what you cannot see. In aviation, structural truth lives below the surface. That is why, in this world, trust the metal, not the mirror. Stay sharp and never skip the inspection.